Anyone can perform when conditions are perfect, when the path is clear, when the variables are controlled, when the outcome is predictable. That requires nothing exceptional. That is the baseline. The separation doesn't happen on the straight. It happens in the curve, where visibility drops, where control becomes uncertain, where the instinct of every average competitor is to slow down. That instinct is the difference between who wins and who watches someone else win. And it is not a talent gap. It is a training gap.
In professional motorsport, the curve is where races are decided, not the long straights where everyone pushes maximum speed. Those sections separate no one. Every driver hits the same ceiling. Every machine performs at its limit. The curve is different. In a curve, the physics become adversarial. The forces working against you multiply. The margin for error compresses. The required inputs become more precise, more counterintuitive, more demanding. And here is what separates elite drivers from the rest. The elite don't brake before the curve. They brake later than anyone else, carry more speed into the corner, and trust their preparation to handle what average drivers consider too dangerous to attempt. They don't slow down because the situation got harder. They accelerate through the difficulty because they spent years training specifically for this moment. Now, remove the car, remove the track. The principle doesn't change. Every domain has straights and curves. Every career, every relationship, every creative pursuit, every competitive field. The straights are where the crowd performs. The curves are where champions are made. The question is not whether you'll face a curve. The question is what you've been doing in preparation for the moment it arrives. Here is what most people do wrong. They prepare for the straight. They optimize for conditions that are already comfortable. They build skills that work when everything is working. They develop confidence that depends on favorable circumstances. And then the curve arrives, and everything they built was calibrated for a different kind of road. This is not a minor miscalculation. It is a fundamental error in how most people approach preparation. Because life does not reward straight-line performance, it rewards curve performance. The job interview goes sideways. That's a curve. The market shifts against your position. That's a curve. The relationship hits a season of genuine difficulty. That's a curve. The project loses momentum at the worst possible moment. That's a curve. Every defining moment in your life will have the structure of a curve. High stakes, reduced visibility, compressed margin for error, every instinct telling you to slow down. And in that moment, your performance will be determined entirely by what you trained for when the pressure wasn't real. But here's what makes this worse. Most people don't even recognize the curve when it arrives. They experience it as bad luck, as unfairness, as the universe working against them. And that misdiagnosis is the most expensive mistake they make. In 1974, psychologist Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi began his research into what he eventually called flow, the state of optimal performance where skill and challenge exist in precise balance. His findings revealed something counterintuitive. Peak human performance does not occur in comfort. It does not occur in safety. It does not occur when the task is easy. It occurs at the exact edge of capability, where the challenge is slightly beyond current skill, where the outcome is genuinely uncertain, where full engagement is not optional but required. In other words, in the curve. Csikszentmihalyi found that people who consistently sought out this edge, who deliberately placed themselves in situations that exceeded their current comfort, developed capabilities that straight-line performers never accessed. Not because they were more talented, because they were repeatedly exposed to the precise conditions that force adaptation. The body adapts to the stress placed on it. The mind adapts to the complexity placed on it. The character adapts to the pressure placed on it. Remove the pressure and the adaptation stops. This is why sheltered performers plateau early, why protected environments produce fragile people, why comfort extended long enough becomes the enemy of everything it was meant to protect. The curve is not the obstacle between you and your destination.
The curve is the mechanism by which you become capable of arriving. Now here is where the logic inverts, and most people miss it entirely. The curve doesn't just test you, it reveals you. Under normal conditions on the straight, almost everyone performs at a similar level. Differences in preparation are invisible, differences in character are hidden. The gap between who you are and who you appear to be stays closed. The curve opens it. Every person in your life who has shown you who they really are showed you in a curve. Not in a comfortable dinner conversation, not in a moment of shared success. In the moment when things got hard, when the stakes were real, when there was something to lose, that's when you saw it. And here is the uncomfortable implication. The same is true of you. Every curve you faced was a moment of revelation, not just about your capability, but about your character. What you chose when slowing down was easier, what you did when no one was measuring, whether you found a way or found an excuse. The curve doesn't lie. It never has. Think about the curves you've already been through. The ones that cost you something real, the ones where the outcome wasn't guaranteed, the ones where you had to make a decision with incomplete information under genuine pressure. What did you learn from them that you couldn't have learned any other way? Because here is what the research and the history both confirm. The people at the highest levels of any field are not the ones who avoided the hardest curves. They are the ones who sought them out, deliberately, strategically, before they felt ready. They understood something that most people spend a lifetime avoiding. You do not get better by waiting for easier conditions. You get better by demanding harder ones. The amateur waits for the perfect moment to perform. The professional creates performance under imperfect conditions, because that is the only training that transfers to the moments that actually matter. Every time you put yourself in the curve voluntarily, every time you choose the harder path when the easier one is available, you are buying insurance for the moment when the curve arrives without your permission. And it will arrive. It always does. The only question is whether you'll be ready or whether you'll be one of the many who hit the brakes when the road bends and wonder why everyone else kept going. The straight is where you show up. The curve is where you're built. Every difficulty you're currently facing, every moment of reduced visibility, every situation where the instinct is to slow down, is not evidence that something is wrong. It is evidence that you are in the only place where growth actually happens. The question is not whether the curve is hard. It is always hard. That is the definition of the curve. The question is whether you understand what the curve is actually for. It is not an obstacle, it is a forge. And the people who come out of the hardest curves are not the same people who went in. They are sharper, more precise, more capable of carrying speed through the next one. That's not luck. That's not talent. That's what happens when you stop treating difficulty as the enemy and start treating it as the only teacher that has ever produced anything worth having. If this is how you want to think, subscribe to Mind Siege. Every week, one idea, sharp, direct, no filler. Built for the people who are tired of the straight and ready for what the curve actually produces. See you in the next one.